Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 18th, 2018 edition of the City of Brentwood's Board of Aldermen meeting. We have some perhaps new faces in different places up here this evening. They're only temporary. We're on our summer schedule this time of year, which means one meeting a month for a little while. I want to thank you for coming despite the true lemonade stand weather outside. And we have quite a long agenda tonight. A lot of the paperwork, if you'd like to follow along, most of it is going to be on the table outside the room set here for you to follow along. And we're going to do our best to try to get you out of this meeting before the day is concluded, before the next couple hours or so. Let's stand, if we could, for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Deputy Clerk, if we could please have roll call.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Here.
Alderman Kramer?
Present.
Alderman Leahy?
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Here.
Alderman Plufka?
Here.
Alderwoman Sims?
Here.
Alderman Weggie?
Thank you again for coming tonight. We have Alderman Weggie, I believe. We're saying welcome to him by way of Microsoft Skype for Business in Seattle this evening. And in an ironic turnabout, our mayor is actually in a Spanish-speaking country. So we'll be running things for the meeting here this evening, and we appreciate you being here. We have our next item on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda for the Board of Aldermen meeting tonight. Do we have any requests for changes or a motion to accept as submitted?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of changes.
Certainly.
I would make a motion to, I don't know if the proper terminology is to strike 11A, synopsis of bills.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back there. Bill 6198.
Nope, 11A,
No,
synopsis
11A.
of bills.
I'm sorry, on my agenda, that's what it says.
On the computer, it says something different.
So we have a
Here.
conflict. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so we have a first and a second. My only concern there is, as long as we get input from staff, that might be helpful, but the idea behind the synopsis is to help the people at home learn what's going on.
The synopsis is online, it's here, it's available. I'm not suggesting we don't print it anymore. My problem is the taking of the time to read the synopsis. It'll still be there. Just why are we taking time to read that?
Well, I can tell you that the first time this came up, which was probably 2003 or 4, the idea was to give the members of the audience in attendance an idea of what business we were transacting. To a certain extent, sometimes if they just hear the title of the bill or a brief outline from maybe a member of staff, it doesn't, in layman's terms, always explain what it's about. I understand the motion in terms of trying to create brevity. However, that's the reason why it was put in place.
Well, and I appreciate that, but again, I'm not suggesting that we don't have it available for the public. It'd be out there on the table, it's online. All I'm saying is, why take up the time of this board and the time of the public to read it when it's available?
And my response is it's for the public. But
When
that's
it's
just
right
my
there,
response.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding that motion? And on the printed agenda, is it actually on there?
11A.
Paula?
So on the printed agenda, what
No,
we
the printed
normally
agenda.
do is we link it to the bills to be given a first reading, bills to be given a second reading, bills to be given a first and second reading, and resolution.
Okay. Any questions regarding the motion? And so,
I have a question for our city attorney. In the other cities, municipalities that you represent, what's your experience with how often or frequently is the synopsis included in the way that we do it here?
I haven't seen it in the 5 or 6 cities that I've been to in the last couple of years.
And the more common approach is the approach that Alderman Dimmitt is talking about?
I would think so, yeah. Many cities don't even go through the time and effort of providing a synopsis, so you're ahead of the game there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
absolutely. So any other further questions regarding that motion? And so I guess we need a roll call vote?
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
No.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie,
Yes.
There you have your answer. I guess one follow-up there, take the opportunity as the chair of the meeting. For those of you that have been to St. Louis County for the county council meetings, if you haven't been there and you're looking for a non-enjoyable evening, that's something you may want to take into account, but it's certainly instructional. There they transact business very quickly. They have very little explanation. It's not user-friendly at all. And boy, if there was ever even a good opportunity for a printed synopsis, that would be a place to have one. So just passing that along, and we're going to move along on the agenda. The
Mr.
consideration.
Chairman, what was the count on the vote?
It's 5-3. I thought it was 5-3.
I did
Let's
too.
get a count.
That was my count.
5-3
Okay.
in favor.
Motion
Okay. And, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we also move items, I don't know what it is on the printed one, 11B, C, and D to item 13. I guess we make that H, I, and J.
Would the goal be to be no first reading only
That-
and move them all to first and
That is
second reading?
correct, Alderman Plufka. Is move the first reading to first and second reading.
I'll second that.
Madam City Attorney, I understand this is our first real meeting with board docs, but the printed agenda is not in line with the board docs version. So I can only estimate that we're talking about,
Items 11B, C, D on board docs.
what bill numbers would those be?
Bill number 6198, 6200, 6201.
Mr. Chairman, on the printed, it's 11A, B, and C.
There we go. Okay. So we have a motion and a second?
Yes, I
Is that
second it.
correct? Okay. Any questions regarding that motion? So that's a motion to delete those items from the category that they're currently in, which is the bills to be given a first reading only. Move those to category 13, bills first and second reading. Any questions regarding that motion? And a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
No.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie,
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, that motion carries. So we're going to have those in the other category. I think the reason why those, Madam City Administrator, the reason why we moved those originally back to first reading was the city had an ongoing practice of staggering readings and pledged that to the voters in the cases where we had items that were non-emergent or non-time sensitive. And I think we were going to try to do that more on a erring on the side of caution more than erring on the side of, on the liberal side. So that was the reason why we put those in that category, but if the board wants to put them in a later category, we can adopt them that way and see how the votes go. Any other changes to the agenda? And motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. Any questions regarding that motion? And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right. So the next item on the agenda is we have consideration and approval of the minutes for May 21st, 2018. Do we have that? Alderman Lockmiller.
Item number 2 under roll call, I believe Mayor Thornton was not present.
That is correct.
Anybody else? So a motion to amend the minutes for the May 21st, 2018 meeting? Any other changes or amendments? Okay. So I guess we have the motion. We got a second or no?
I'll second it.
Okay, there we go. And all those in favor of that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you.
Second?
Any questions regarding that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, Brandon, we're trying to make sure you're in there. It's a little delayed. We got you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, presentation recognition. We have a proclamation for Joe Clay, the 2018 Scholar Athlete of the Brentwood High School, who has the only time I think, Joe, I've seen that GPA is in writing. That's a rare accomplishment. That's awesome. Joe, if you're around, if you could come up and get ready to receive the proclamation. I find myself in a strange position where I'll be reading the proclamation, then I'll be coming up, and I think we have do we have that here?
Once it's signed, then we'll present it
I
to
didn't know if we actually had a,
the,
Okay.
well, no, not today.
all right. So this is from the city of Brentwood, state of Missouri, the 2018 Scholar Athlete of Brentwood High School for Joe Clay. Whereas Joseph Clay is a 2018 graduate of Brentwood High School. As a student athlete, he took part in football, track and field, and baseball. He attained a 3.95 grade point average. He plans to attend Fordham University in New York. And whereas during his high school years, Joseph was a member of the state championship track and field 4x100 meter relay, and a member of the football first team all-district and football third team all-state. And whereas Joseph was a member of the National Honor Society and Spanish Honor Society at Brentwood High School, he served as a Spanish club officer and a summer school volunteer. And whereas for the 52nd year, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch Scholar Athlete Program honors one student from every area school, a requirement being that they participate in athletics and excel in the classroom. And whereas through his commitment to academic success as well as athletic performance, Joseph has been named a 2018 Scholar Athlete representing Brentwood High School. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Christopher Thornton, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, and on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, do hereby congratulate Joe Clay as the 2018 Scholar Athlete in the city of Brentwood for his accomplishments and wish him the best as he continues his education. Presented this 18th day of June, 2018. Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have a public hearing scheduled. We have two of them actually set up. The first one is the CDBG, full year 2019 City of Brentwood public hearing for discussing the estimated allocation of $20,000 in community development block grant funds, which will become available after January 1st, 2019. And we've got our director, Lisa Kirkemeyer, who's going to make a presentation. Let's gavel in this public hearing at 7:17.
Thank you. So every year, the city, through the Community Planning Development Department, through St. Louis County Community Development Office, applies for $20,000 worth of grants through the Community Development Block Grant Program. Historically, after we apply for it, we have always received the funding and what those funds have been used for is for 4 forgivable home loans for home improvements. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the memo. This program is still very well received, and unfortunately, we still have a waiting list for people to get these funds and have access to these funds. So the purpose of the public hearing is just to explain what the city of Brentwood plans to do with the $20,000. And so again, it would be 4 forgivable loans up to $5,000 for each loan. And also in the past, we have also had your support and anyone using these funds for these particular projects that we do not charge for the building permit fee. So I would ask for your consideration for that as well. There is a sign-up sheet for anyone attending the public hearing up there on the table, and information as well for how these funds are used.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions for Lisa? Alderman Plufka.
With regards to the permit issue, do you want some action by us tonight?
Yeah, just in a motion form is fine. So
Just like a resolution or a?
I didn't really prepare a resolution, but if
Okay.
we just have a motion, we'll know that we have your support to continue that practice.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Your Honor, would it be appropriate to make that motion at this time? Since we're in a public hearing, and I'm not, then let's make.
Do it at the end of the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience have any questions? All right. We have an opportunity here, and this is not coming up later on in the agenda. Is that right, Bola?
That is
Okay.
correct.
All right.
So, Your Honor, if I
Alderman,
may?
sure.
We'll make a motion that the city of Brentwood waive all permit fees for those of qualifying and receiving the community development block grant
Second.
for 2018.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions regarding that motion for the CDBG block grant funds? Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Wiggy.
Yes.
All right, we have a passage of that motion. We're going to gavel out at 7:20 the public hearing for the CDBG fiscal year 2019 topic. We're going to go into the next public hearing for the Chapter 353 development plan for the Manchester Road flood mitigation area, the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation, and our city holding a public hearing tonight to discuss the Chapter 353 development plan of Manchester Road. We have 3 presenters. Chris Jones, who's the president of the 353 Corporation, John Brancaglione from PGAV, Jim Mello, our counsel, as we gavel in this public hearing at 7:20 also. First up, Mr. Jones, if you could, please.
Good evening, and thank you, members of the board. My name is Chris Jones. I live at 2657 Salem Road, and I have been involved with the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation for years. Currently, I act as the chair of the president. As I think most members are aware, the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation has been looking at a Manchester renewal project for some time. So with me here this evening, I have John Brancaglione, who's going to give you some information and be prepared to address any questions that the board or the public may have about the work there. Upon conclusion, I think later on the agenda, I think you have on your agenda a motion for the acceptance of both the development plan as well as the qualification analysis. I would ask that you would accept those later on. So without further ado, I would like to introduce John and let him to address any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris and members of the board. You have, as a background to this, 2 documents, both prepared by us on behalf of the city and on behalf of the Redevelopment Corporation. First document I want to talk about, because one thing sort of precedes the other, is the qualifications analysis document. In order to create a Chapter 353 redevelopment area, you have to make certain findings that are backed up by evidence to declare the area as a blighted area. Now, that has multiple meanings under the statute, but I'll walk you very briefly through what we found having visited this area numerous times over a one-year period. The area boundaries are shown on the plate that is at the appendix to the Appendix A, which are the supporting exhibits. And so the boundary generally includes the parcels fronting Manchester Road between roughly Mary Avenue on the west and Hanley on the east, and to the city's limits on the south. The area contains 91 parcels and 91 acres of territory. The existing conditions that I will recite in general are shown on a map that is plate 4. The existing conditions, and that plate is specifically designed so that you can see the number of factors that were present on any given parcel. And then that is backed up by a table, Table 2, again, that provides the same information in table format. This area is one that you have, as a city, been working on for a very long time. The area has flooded 26 times since 1957, and much of that accelerated and is compressed into about the last 10 or 12 years, where the flooding frequency has become far greater. And of course, you all know what happens when that occurs. Basically, it shuts down Manchester Road, it floods properties, and generally creates a fair amount of havoc until the water finally recedes. This is an area that is part of 3 component projects that you have dubbed Manchester Renewal. I'll talk about those when we get to talking about the development plan. One of the factors that Chapter 353 requires there be a finding relative to is age, the age of buildings. And so the way we look at that is really hooked to the way the federal government looked at that under the old urban renewal statutes, where there was sort of a demarcation that said if the building was 35 years old or older, it was likely at a stage where it needed more than a little attention, particularly in instances where there hadn't been active and ongoing maintenance to that structure. So in this case, based on the assessor's data, 83 of the buildings, or 92% of them, are older than 35 years of age. Only 8 buildings are newer, and those were buildings that were built basically between 85 and 99. The average building in the area was constructed 58 years ago, and some of them are more than 100 years old. The other factor it looks at is, that we're required to look at, is obsolescence. And so what you can see if you study the mapping is some very weird parcel configurations in numerous instances, where if you tried to build something on that parcel today based on your current codes, it would be very difficult to do that, or the planning commission would be holding board of adjustment hearings on an ongoing basis. There are utilities, curb cuts, site access, all sorts of things that confound the ability for these properties to function. And part of their obsolescence is a function of what I'll call market rejection, for lack of a better term. We have a lot of vacancies in this area, and the reason you have those vacancies is in part because there's this flooding thing. And that means that people are reluctant to either become tenants in or purchase those structures. You have other factors, including the sort of angled configuration of the intersection of Manchester and Hanley. That creates a traffic constriction, and so some of these factors that go to obsolescence. For example, you have industrial buildings in particularly the southern part of the area, and retail buildings in the northern part of the area that don't meet modern standards. They're simply old buildings that are difficult configurations, are broken up internally, and then even the industrial buildings in many instances don't have the clear heights inside that are typically desirable in that market today. Some of these things also factor into another category called inadequate or outmoded design. So that relates to things like the odd-shaped parcels I was talking about earlier. Small buildings that nearly cover a parcel, and so now you've got constraints on the ability to have sufficient parking for the use that's there. There are a lot of vacant buildings, and you have some infrastructure that includes electrical, water, sewer, stormwater, all of these things that now are outmoded from a design standpoint, as pretty much any public works or city engineer would tell you. So part of that gets affected by, again, this flooding problem. The most recent two that we cited here were December the 26th of 2015 and October 18th of 2016. Now, that has contributed, both the age, the outmoded buildings, and the flooding have contributed to the physical deterioration. And that's pretty much all of the things that you might expect to see as a result. Parking and paved surfaces that are deteriorating, and roadways that are deteriorating are subject to these areas to flooding often enough, and they simply begin to deteriorate more rapidly. This has affected the infrastructure, the storm drainage. Part of the storm drainage issues there are the fact that the creek has been allowed to fill in over time, both from the standpoint of dirt and debris infill that comes every time it floods, but it's also has significant overgrowth. All of that is contributing to the problem that you have. Then once you've looked at those factors, the statute says, okay, to what degree have these attributed or contributed to economic liability? Well, the assessed value of this property in the area reached a peak in 2008 during the housing and real estate bubble, but it's seen a 14% decrease since that time. And even prior to 2008, the numbers weren't going up at a significant rate. And you can see there's a table on page 9 that shows you it was like a spike, a one-time spike, if you will. And it's pretty much been a downhill run ever since. And, you know, this trend is in stark contrast to the rest of the city, where the citywide real property assessed valuation over 10 years has increased at 32%, while this is going down the other way. The social liability factors, as have been determined by both the statute and ongoing case law on 353, means that a primary social liability that's related to the decrease in assessed value is such that you have many of the taxing districts who are providing a social service of one sort or another. So you have, in my mind, a social liability when that revenue is decreasing and is on a continuing downhill run. But in this case, you have other environmental factors which are important in making that argument. And of course, we've already talked about the floodplain, so I won't go back into that anymore. There's been an ongoing pattern of illegal dumping in the area. There is documented, and I was surprised to find this, we have flat employment data in there because, again, as those businesses and buildings have become vacant, that means somebody's not got a job there. The other thing that has occurred is that we were shocked to find the EPA data that shows what is coming down that creek every time it floods, and it is not pretty. And page 12 of the document bears that out. Plus, depending on when you visit this area, and even after a normal rain, there's a lot of standing water. And so nowadays, as we pay much more attention to things like the Zika virus in West Nile and the mosquito breeding grounds, if you know what you're looking for, you can literally see it. And as we indicated, there are conditions that are conducive to crime anytime there is, in fact, vacant buildings. That's sort of what I'm sure your police call an attractive nuisance. And as I said, there's evidence of trespassing, graffiti, illegal dumping, and some evidence that some of it may have been industrial waste. Although we didn't see anything that looked like that the last time we were out there, which was about 4 months ago. So, we believe the area qualifies by virtue of age, obsolescence, inadequate and outmoded design, physical deterioration. And then those things, the economic and environmental conditions represent both social and economic liabilities, not just to the city, but to the taxing districts and the various property owners in the area. And we have provided a sample of photographs that we think represent sort of the cross-section of conditions in that area. There are way more photographs than are here. So we chose to pick the ones that we thought were the best examples of the recurring items. Do we have any questions on that info?
Questions for John?
Okay,
Outstanding information.
Then I will go on to the development plan. You have created a 353 redevelopment corporation and established that board. And in this case, like others, you are not unique in this. That entity is acting as an overarching city-created, what I would refer to as master development. At the end of the day, that board will undoubtedly develop nothing. But they are there to facilitate really two things. the land acquisition process that has to be carried out here to implement the flood mitigation design that is now in its final stages of engineering to assist with any land acquisition relative to the city's contribution to the Manchester Road improvements, because the city is intending to do some enhancements of its own as part of that piece of the Manchester Renewal Project. And then thirdly, the Great Rivers Greenway project that the city is also participating in to implement the extensions to the existing trail system through the area. So what the development plan does is it establishes the basis for the quote-unquote redevelopment project, whereas these projects are implemented and there is an opportunity to redevelop the area, what this anticipates is the redevelopment corporation will be the city's entity overseeing the land acquisition process on behalf of the city and this board. And then once those activities are completed, and it may be staged or phased, then they will be the entity that solicits proposals for redevelopment for particular pieces of the area from either existing property owners or third-party developers, and be the entity that sort of vets and screens those proposals before passing them on to you. Any redevelopment in this area ultimately also has to be approved by this board. So they're playing a role that is right and proper, and it's been very successful in other cities. If you're familiar with a large business park project in Maryland Heights, on the north side of Page and just west of Lindbergh, called Lakeside 370, that was done in much the same fashion. Initially using in that case, they used the Industrial Development Authority members and had them wear a different hat and created them as the 353 board, basically following the same procedure here. The development plan sets forth the project construction costs that are related to those major developments, and those are based on the current data from the city's engineers, from MoDOT's engineers, from Great Rivers Greenways consultants, and the overseeing entity, which is Navigate Building Solutions, which is the umbrella agency the city, or entity the city retained to oversee this whole process. So this development plan, in our mind and per your counsel, Mr. Mello here, meets the provisions of the statute, provides for things to be done the way this is intended. And so I think this is a complete package that marries these two things together. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, John. Any questions? Alderman Lockmiller.
John, the properties that are outside of the flooding area, but yet we're looking to also blight, is that mainly just due to the obsolescence of the properties?
In some cases, yes. In fact, in many cases, yes. But some of those buildings may be functional, and there may be businesses there that want to redevelop them. In other cases, there are a whole string of vacant buildings along the north side of the street there. And so it's hopeful that this, because there is the ability later for the redevelopment corporation and this board to provide tax abatement in exchange for a good redevelopment project, that you will be able to assist not just a third party, but maybe assist an existing business.
And does the 353, are they the holders of the properties we acquire? Or is it under city?
The city ultimately will be the entity who takes title to the property as far as the three projects are concerned. Ultimately, if the 353 board then in turn down the line approves a redevelopment proposal for some independent entity, in other words, a third-party developer that wins your favor and their favor as a developer, then they have to form their own 353 redevelopment corporation in order for any of those incentives to be transferred on. Am I right, Jim?
No.
Oh. That's why he's here.
Any other questions for John before he steps down?
Well, we should make sure they can pass the development, the board can pass the development rights on, is that correct?
Well,
Jim, come on up if you can, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
John and I have done this a few times, and I have to keep reminding him he's not an attorney, and he's got to keep reminding me that I'm not a planner. So we kind of go back and forth. But just in response to your question, most of the property will be titled to the city. So it'll be, the corporation would be acting as an agent, third party, going under contract, and then transferring that title to you. Down the road, depending on how everything ultimately shakes out and the public facility improvements are in place, as John indicated, there could be third-party developments that occur, like somebody that's an existing property owner redevelops a site and buys adjacent properties or buys surplus property from the city. Title would have to go through a redevelopment corporation. I would suggest that would go through the city's redevelopment corporation because it would be part of a redevelopment plan. But by state law, title has to pass through a 353 for tax abatement to apply. Now, it could be a third-party 353, but why would a developer want to form its own 353 since the city's 353 was already pretty much in charge of overseeing the project to begin with. But if you remember Drury's project, that was a separate 353 that was done by Drury Corporation.
Yes.
Because the city 353 had no involvement in it. It was a totally private development. One point I do want to make, though, is that the current plan does not provide for any tax abatement. So any tax abatement that was going to be proposed down the road as property is reassembled as proposals are made would have to go back to be recommended, come back to the Board of Aldermen. The taxing jurisdictions would receive notice and a tax impact report so that the school district and county would know what impact they would have if the project was approved. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that it's not a part, they can't just start giving tax abatement. It's got to go through the process again. And that will happen, I think, after the initial phase of the public improvements are built and we start seeing interest by third-party developers in this area once the core problems have been resolved.
And we do have a representative of the school board on the
Yes.
353.
Yes.
Thanks.
Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we take this up as Bill 6200 tonight, once, if we vote to authorize approving the 53 development plan, then they become a separate corporate entity that then would, at the appropriate time, take on the sort of the discernment of various redevelopment proposals when the timing of that is correct, is appropriate, given, the abatement, the other things that are being done, the flood abatement, the other aspects that have already gone into. So let's say that 353 Corporation at some point down the road says and makes a decision among its board that one particular redevelopment plan among other redevelopment plans is the one that we think, or that corporation believes this is the direction we ought to go. Is their relationship to this board similar to planning and zoning is to this board, or do they have separate and autonomous authority by virtue of this bill and ordinance to make deals and authorize the sale of property and things like that?
It has less autonomy than a P&Z board has.
Okay.
It cannot grant tax abatement unless the Board of Aldermen approve the underlying plan and the tax abatement. Now, and the acquisition of properties is going to be with city funds. So
Right.
the city's going to control the disposition of those properties.
Okay.
So, is it possible to concoct a situation where the corporation would have acquired property without the city funds or whatever, and could they then transfer that property as a corporation to somebody else that you may or may not love as a city? Yes, but they couldn't do it pursuant to a development plan. They couldn't do it pursuant with tax abatement. So it would just be as a private, one owner selling to another, and there would be really no benefit in that. So.
And so, but the way this is conceived of and the way that it's expected to go is more the way that you just described, not in that sort of one-off circumstance, but in the circumstance that they would collectively develop or consider and then promote a redevelopment plan that would then be brought to here as a presentation.
Yes, I think.
Okay.
John mentioned one example. Another example would be Chesterfield Valley.
Right.
And that was done with a TIF, not 353, but there again, the city used an Economic Development Council to act as a master developer, but all the projects were approved, zoning, tax abatement, or the TIF, all those were controlled by the city.
Okay.
What the benefit of this is we've got the ability to do the tax abatement, do the planning, do the property acquisition, so that's in place, but it's still subject to the city's control. That's what we're trying to put in place.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I want to make one other comment about the blight. Not every parcel within the redevelopment area qualifies.
Right.
The state law requires that a preponderance of the property, or majority of the property qualify. So if you're a property owner in this area, you may have a perfectly fine building, everything's fine, but because it's part of an overall redevelopment area that does qualify, that's why it's included in the plan. So I just want to make sure that's clear to any property owners or anybody that's concerned about that.
Other questions? Jim, when you have the designation of blight, let's say, for example, there is an ensuing development or development agreement that takes advantage of the presence of that designation. Is there an expiration before it has to be renewed? Can the blight designation stay in place for how long? As long as...
That's a determination of the city council.
Okay.
And the plans that are in place. There's a limit to how long a tax abatement can be provided for. So, but one of the reasons why the 353, there's two reasons why the 353 as the umbrella, I think, makes the most sense. One is, what we're talking about is property values tied to real estate more than we're talking about sales tax and economic activity taxes that you would see up at Brentwood Promenade, for example. This is not going to be a retail, big box development. So it's going to be primarily property tax driven. The benefits are going to be property tax, and the abatement is going to be property. So it's a 353. The second reason is this is going to happen over time. It's not like your typical project where the developer comes in and says, this is what I'm going to build. I'm going to build it in this period of time, and these are the incentives that are going to be in place to get it done within 20 years, or 23 years is the maximum in a tip. We don't have that luxury, because we don't know how this is going to evolve once we start putting the public infrastructure in place. And so we need the flexibility of time to expand, to be expandable, which it is.
Okay.
So that's why that's another reason to do the 3 years. Because this is going to go on for
A little while.
I was going to say something like I'll be on a beach in Italy by the time this thing is done, but no, it's going to go on for a long time, and so we can't put a deadline on those type of use of those type of programs.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. And because we have this as a public hearing, is there anyone in the audience that has any questions of any of our presenters or about this topic? If so, now is the time to come forward. Going once, going twice. All right, we're going to close the public hearing for the Chapter 353 Development Plan. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for being here this evening. Much appreciated. And we have an item that's going to be coming up later on the agenda. As we move now along to the next item, bids. Request for bids for furnishing, delivery, installation of audiovisual system for City of Brentwood Council Chambers. And our IT manager, Larry Crawley, is here. Hello, Larry. Come on up. How you doing, sir? Doing okay.
The city had approved that capital project to install a new audio and video system in the council chambers. Back at the beginning of May, we published an RFP and we received 3 responses.
Larry, speaking to you.
You gotta speak up. Okay.
We need new
There you
audio.
go.
No, you're good.
So the city had an FY18 approved capital project for a new audio and video system here in the council chambers. We sent out an RFP, request for bids back at the beginning of May. We received 3 responses to that RFP, Conference Technologies Inc., Fusion Media Systems, and W. Schiller and Company. Table 1 of the memo that I had submitted showed all 3 of the vendors that had submittal. It showed they intended to go for a walkthrough. They all submitted the bids by the required deadline. Shows what their base bid amount was, as well as what their scorecard points or measurement was. Due to a significantly higher base bid amount and scorecard results, we eliminated Fusion Media Systems right off the bat due to those 2 factors. The remaining 2 companies, Conference Technologies and W. Schiller, had a difference of 3.69%. Conference Technologies was the lowest bid at $77,953. The scorecard measures showed a 1-point difference between the 2, with W. Schiller having a higher score. We called all the reference projects and sites they had submitted, just did our own research, checked the Better Business Bureau. Couldn't find fault in either company, so at the last Ways and Means Committee meeting, we presented both CTI and Schiller as the 2 lowest and most qualified bids for this project for the city. After discussion, the committee at the time made a recommendation of actually going with W. Schiller based on relevant project experience, based on customer service, and the proximity or location of the company, because they are located here in the city of Brentwood. Is there any questions?
Hey, Larry, Schiller's been around for a long time. Everybody seems to recognize the name of that company. Did you get it? Do we have an indication of, assuming there's approval and financing taken care of, a potential start time and what timeline for that project?
So, The contract says with the time of us handing over a signed contract, it will begin in 20 days. It's estimated to be completed by November of this year. We did give them all of the different meetings that are held in this space, and part of that agreement is they have to make this available for use during construction. So that's the timeline.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Larry while we've got him here? Thank you very much for your time. So Bola, we don't have this item set up for a bill, so we need a motion, right?
Actually, there is a bill later
Okay.
on the agenda.
Which one
I
is it?
believe it is Bill 6208. Furnishing,
Got it.
delivery, and
Okay.
installation.
Super. That was easy. Thanks very much, Larry. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Next item on the agenda, we have the request for bids, lawn care service. Bola.
In 2015, the Board of Aldermen passed ordinance number 4664. At that time, staff recommended that we enter into an agreement with the lawn care service to help with grass cutting, shrubbery cutting, and tree trimming for services of vacant and abandoned properties and properties with code violations. The reason why we brought this to the board back then was that we felt the staff needed assistance so that we were able to quickly respond to code violations and respond as soon as residents would like us to do so. We have now determined that the one lawn care company that we have a contract with is not always able to respond in a timely manner. So staff has gone out seeking additional bids, and this is one of many that we hope to bring to the board in the coming months.
And we have a bill for this coming up later on, is that right?
Absolutely.
6206.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Bola regarding that item? Thanks very much. Next item on the agenda is the hearing of any matter of public interest upon request of any persons present. Now's the time to come forward if anybody has anything they'd like to ask about or comment on, compliments, suggestions, or otherwise. Going once, going twice. Now, see, the meeting is moving along. We're along to the bills to be given a first reading only. That was changed. No bills to be given a second reading only, so bills to be given a first and second reading. And I believe we're up to bill number 6198, if I'm correct. Mr. City Attorney, may we have the first reading by title only, please?
Yes, sir. The first reading of bill number 6198, an ordinance amending Brentwood City Code relating to the order of business and agendas for Board of Aldermen meetings.
Righty. Bull, I believe this was recommended by our City Attorney Kevin O'Keefe, and I believe the mayor has weighed in with an affirmation.
That's
Is there any
correct.
information you can share on this?
The city attorney, Kevin O'Keefe, recommends, after having multiple discussions with Mayor Thornton, that it is time for the city to give consideration to a formal agenda protocol, which is different from the agenda that you have before you tonight. What we are primarily introducing by this is what is called a consent agenda, and this allows the board to dispose of routine business matters efficiently and allow the board and the public the time to focus on more substantive legislation and policy matters. If at any point in time during the meeting, aldermen are allowed to ask questions or comment on separate items, or they could move to ask if they know there's going to be an involved discussion, that any one of the items on the consent agenda be removed. What we are hoping for with this is a more efficient way to dispose of items that either have gone through committee multiple times or that the board is fully aware of. So the request is for a first and second reading of this item tonight.
Bola, did either the mayor or the city attorney give you any reason that this would be a time-sensitive matter?
No, they did not.
Okay, just checking. Anybody have any questions regarding that?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Sure. Alderman-
Just by way of the procedure, to get something on the consent agenda, if a committee has a positive recommendation for a matter, would that then cause that bill to end up on the consent agenda?
No, typically not. I mean, you're mostly putting administrative matters on the consent agenda, so approval of minutes, simple business, you might put purchases of vehicles and equipment, that sort of thing on there. It would be rare that you would put a zoning matter from the Plan Commission or anything of substance like that on a consent agenda.
Then the other question is, so let's say hypothetically there's 5 matters on the consent agenda. Do you then just take one vote on those 5 matters as a group, or do you? Okay.
Yes, the mayor would call for a motion to approve the consent agenda. There'd be a second. There would be a request that, would anyone like to remove any of these items? Hearing none, take the vote.
Thank you.
Other questions? Alderman Sims.
And just to clarify, all it takes to remove, I mean, I don't want to belabor the word consent, but if one person says, I don't want that item on the consent agenda, it comes off?
Yes, if you look in section 1 on the second page under sub C, below the list of items, it says at the request of the mayor or one or more of the members of the board, any item can be removed from the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. City Attorney, may we have the second reading of Bill number 6198?
Second and possibly final reading of Bill 6198, an ordinance amending Brentwood City Code relating to the order of business and agendas for Board of Aldermen meetings.
And motion to perfect, if we could, please.
Make a motion to perfect Bill number 6198 into ordinance form. Second.
And a second. We have a motion and a second. And I'll entertain any other further questions or comments regarding this particular bill. Alderman Leahy.
I'd like to ask the board to take a look at section 110.165. It's page 1 of 3 of the bill, subsection A. This lists the agenda order that we're going to run the meeting for. I would like to make a motion to remove line 12. I think citizen comment at the beginning of the meeting should be sufficient, but to put it both at the front end and the back end, I have found over the years has not been that beneficial. So I'd like to make a motion to remove the comments at the end of the meeting.
So we have a motion on the floor by Alderman Leahy. Do we have a second to that motion? Going once, going twice. My apologies, Alderman Leahy. It looks like we don't have a second. Any other questions regarding that motion or comments? I guess my only comment would be, I mentioned this before, I made a pledge to the voters along with some of the other aldermen earlier that whenever there was an opportunity to stagger the readings on the bills, if there was not an important or time-sensitive or urgent or emergent matter connected with the bill, then I would not be in favor of a first and second reading, so I'll be opposed to this bill. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
No.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plucka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
And Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
I believe the motion carries.
Yes.
Do we have an ordinance number?
6. 6 in favor.
Do we have an ordinance number?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Bill number 6198 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4844.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, I believe, was originally 6199 to be on the first and second reading only. Mr. City Attorney, may we please have the first reading of Bill number 6199?
Yes, sir. First reading of Bill 6199, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri approving execution of a release of easement and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
Bull, this has to do with Manchester Road. Is there anything that we need to hear from you or from our
From-
Attorney Mello?
Attorney Mello, this has to do with the property 8606 Manchester Road that the city purchased for the Manchester Road project.
It's pretty straightforward. The city is going to own this property, and it also is the holder of the easement, and there's a thing called merger of title. So since we own the whole thing, it's confusing to have it as an easement also to us. So it's just a cleanup that the title company wanted, and it makes sense. And 50 years from now or 80 years from now, somebody will thank us that we cleaned it up. So.
Any questions for Attorney Mello? All right, thank you so much. If we could, Mr. City Attorney, may we please have the second reading of Bill number 6199?
The second reading of Bill 6199, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri approving execution of a release of easement and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
Questions regarding this bill? Again, number 6199. Otherwise, a motion to perfect, please.
Motion to perfect Bill 6199 into
Second.
ordinance form.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And City Administrator Conde, when we spoke about this earlier, it seemed as though there's an advantage to the city to pass this right away.
The city already owns this property.
There you go. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Bill number 6199 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen, becomes ordinance number 4837.
Thank you so much. Okay, as we follow the bouncing ball here, I think we're up to 6200. And bill number 6200 is going to have a first and second this evening. Mr. City Attorney, may we please have the first reading of that bill?
First reading of Bill number 6200, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, finding and declaring a certain area in the city a blighted area under Chapter 353 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri as amended, approving the redevelopment plan submitted for the redevelopment of such area, authorizing the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation to act as the agent of the city with respect to property acquisition within such area, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Opportunity for questions regarding this bill. Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may, I think my question best asked of Mr. Mello. Jim, if we're giving the 353 the right to act as the agent in all of this, the city hasn't given the 353 any money to be able to do any purchasing. How does that happen?
When they have come to an arrangement with the acquisition of the property, they're going to say, we have a contract for the property if you approve it. And of course, you approving it would be providing for the funding for that, that property. The city would appropriate.
So everything they negotiate out has to come back to us.
Yes, yes.
To work with.
What it does, yeah, like we talked about earlier during the public hearing, the Board of Aldermen still has the final say on the acquisition of properties. This just delegates the activities of talking to people, negotiating, keeping track of the overall planning, how it's going, but it's still the city Board of Aldermen's decision to
accept the contract or not.
Can a 353 go into closed session in order to discuss land acquisition under sunshine?
Yes, as long as they comply with the statute, they're a public entity, just like the Board of Aldermen, so they have to comply with the rule, but they can certainly, land acquisition, as you know, is,
One of the three causes.
yes, it can be
Okay.
exempt from open meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding that topic? And if we could, Mr. City Attorney, read the second reading of Bill number 6200.
The second reading of Bill 6200, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, finding and declaring a certain area in the city a blighted area under Chapter 353 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri as amended, approving the redevelopment plan submitted for the redevelopment of such area, authorizing the Brentwood Redevelopment Corporation to act as the agent of the city with respect to property acquisition within such area, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Bill 6200. Bola, I know when you and I met, we talked about some of the bills that we didn't think had emergent circumstance. This was one of them that does.
It does.
And just for the record, I don't remember asking for it to be given just a first reading tonight, but it's on the list. And I just want to make sure I'm correct and on the record that 6200 does, in fact, from all points of view, seem to be in need of the first and second reading. And we have no further questions, so we'll call for the roll.
Has there been a motion made?
Make a motion?
Do we have perfect? Go ahead, perfect number 6200.
Motion to perfect Bill 6200 in ordinance form.
Second?
First and second. Any questions?
I'm sorry, who did the second?
Alderman Plufka? Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Yes. Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Yes. Bill number 6200 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4845.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Moving on with the agenda. Next item is 6201, which is a bill that is a housekeeping measure, as I seem to recall. Originally stated for first reading, now has been asked for a first and second reading. Bola, do you have any information on this?
Thank you, Alderman Kramer. This bill is an ordinance adopting the 2017 statutory updates. Annually, the city's codifier, which is General Code, they review the state laws that have been adopted to determine if there are any updates that are required to the municipal code, and they have found several, and that is attached as Exhibit A, the 2017 statutory material. This is something that we do every year, and they have also indicated that if the city is able to have the Board of Aldermen adopt this rather quickly, then they would, at no cost to the city, include this in our code online.
So, Bola, the advantage to passing it more quickly is cost savings?
Yes,
Otherwise, is there an emergent matter connected with this bill?
not particularly.
Okay, I think that's why we moved it. Any questions regarding that motion, bill number 6201? And a second reading, please, Mr. City Attorney.
Did we have the first one?
Let's have the first, in case we didn't.
First reading of Bill 6201, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances of the City of Brentwood, establishing the same, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, except as herein expressly provided, providing for the manner of amending such code of ordinances, providing penalty for the violation thereof, and providing when this ordinance shall become effective.
One more opportunity for questions. And please, the second reading, sir.
Second reading of Bill 6201, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances of the City of Brentwood, establishing the same, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, except as herein expressly provided, providing for the manner of amending such code of ordinances, providing penalty for the violation thereof, and providing when this ordinance shall become effective.
Thank you, sir.
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Chairman, I'd make a motion to perfect Bill number 62-1 into ordinance form.
There we go.
Second.
First and second. Now that we have the motion on the floor with the second, any questions regarding that motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Motion
And
carries.
Bill number 6201 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4846.
Thank you so much.
Your Honor, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I believe when we passed the first two bills, we were at ordinance number 4836 and 4837, and now we're at ordinance 4845 and ordinance 4846. Did we skip something in the middle?
No, sir, since we moved the order
Around?
around, that's how I had them placed. So by the end of the meeting, it'll
You'll
be back
you'll
together.
fill in the blanks.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just trying to follow them down. I'm going, missed. Thank you.
And for those of you who are following the bouncing ball, Bill number 6202, I believe is correct, as the next
No.
item on the agenda.
6203.
202 got
Must have been pulled.
It was
dropped? Okay. 6203, Mr. City Attorney, if we could have the first reading, please.
First reading of Bill 6203, an ordinance authorizing the amendment of the City of Brentwood's current employee handbook, updating the military leave, smoking policies, and the police department promotion policy.
Thank you, sir. I believe we have a request to limit some liability. We've got our CALIA certification and health, safety, and welfare topic in keeping with St. Louis County. And our HR Department Director, Jason, is here, perhaps to answer any questions for those on the board regarding Bill 6203.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Back when, I'm going to say 6 years ago, the Public Works and the different committees went through the employee handbooks and realized that we had different handbooks for different departments. And we went through a whole lot of effort to get it all consolidated to one handbook and spelled everything out in one location. This bill says, well, we're going to have the employee handbook, but we're going to tell you that you have to spell some things out over in the CALIA handbook, and that's going to be good enough. I think we're heading back into the wrong direction. Is it really that much trouble to define what it is that we want the employees to work to and benefits of in one handbook and leave it there, instead of constantly keep developing individual manuals that tell you to go back and forth?
The main reason that that portion was added to the bill that you're working on right now was primarily because the police department is attempting to get their CALIA accreditation. And the way that the ordinance, or the way that the handbook had read prior was not in keeping with CALIA. Rather than having a circular reference, we wanted to make sure that it referred directly to what the CALIA policy was. In the event that the CALIA policy changed, I didn't want to have to keep coming back to the board to update the handbook. By referring directly to the CALIA policy, it eliminates that step.
But we're back to then having two books to tell the employees what we do versus the consolidation. And we went through, what, a year and a half, 2 years to try to get it all in one place, because we found out the departments all weren't working to the same criteria. I find we're going in the wrong direction again.
We have an alternative proposal.
You know, one thing you could do is what you do with your adoption of your building codes. I mean, you know, the ones that are fairly thick, you don't restate the entire document. You attach it as an exhibit or an addendum. You could do the same thing here, because the CALIA handbook is only going to be relevant to the police department, not any other employee. So it could be an exhibit to your existing employee handbook.
No further questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions regarding this topic? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Bill number 6203, if we could have the second reading, please.
The second reading of Bill 6203, an ordinance authorizing the amendment of the City of Brentwood's current employee handbook, updating the military leave, smoking policies, and the police department promotion policy.
Motion to perfect. And a
Second.
second. Motion to perfect, first and second. Do we have any questions regarding that motion? And a roll call vote. Alderman Leahy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think, how do I phrase that to make that amendment change? I'm not sure how to accomplish, but I like the idea of staying with the one manual that we all work to, instead of breaking it out. So I assume you have to pull, I'm not sure where to get the amendment and where to put it in. Can I seek some help?
Alderman Plufka.
While we're, I guess, working on that, I would just suggest that I don't think that the concern is as big a deal as the alderman suggests, especially in the day and age of Google and everything being online. I'm familiar with parts of the CALEA requirements, and it is no trouble at all to access a specifically referenced section of their requirements. And if somebody is truly concerned about having one centralized place, I mean, we're not talking about the actual physical handbook being the center of the universe anyway anymore, are we? I mean, we're talking about things being predominantly online and being things like that. I don't really understand the concern about, because there's a reference to an outside source, that somehow we've regressed back into having multiple policies and handbooks. It's still the handbook.
We had attorneys that advised the city that because we had departmental booklets telling people how to work.
That's not
it
this, though, Alderman.
contradicted what was going on, and it would lead to dispute.
But that's not this. What you describe, I understand that, but that's not what we have in front of us here. This is simply a reference to a requirement for CALEA certification that may on its own change over time. And to our employee's point with regard to just having to repeat the task over and over again, every time CALEA changes it, he has to go in and ask us to adopt, to change to what we do. Why not do what they suggest? I don't see the problem. I understand the concern you've raised. I don't see that it's borne out by what's going on here. Thank you.
If we could, for the moment, our city attorney has an abstention is helping out.
I'll give you one proposal on how to handle that. At the end of section 1, you could add a sentence that could read, "And the CALEA policy as amended from time to time that governs the police department promotion policy shall be added to the employee handbook as an addendum."
So moved.
We have a motion to amend Bill 6203. Do we have a second to that amendment?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to amend Bill 6203. If we could please have a roll call on that amendment.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Whaley.
Yes.
If we could now, does anybody have any questions regarding that stage? If not, we'll need a motion to perfect as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to perfect 6203 as amended. Questions regarding that motion? Alderman Demmett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bola, the supporting memo that we received discusses the sick leave policy.
So it's not included, it should not have been included.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? And by the way, for those who may have the printed synopsis, we're removing it from that printed synopsis version as well. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Whaley.
Yes.
Bill number 6203 passes as amended, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4838.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Madam City Administrator, I wanted to check with our city attorney and our sound engineer. We have Alderman Weggie, who is appearing by out of town, and to satisfy our requirements, it appears as though the picture we're seeing has changed from the first time, and I wondered if the sound engineer could check that real quick, and also if we could poll Alderman Weggie. Are you able to see the same? The picture before was just of you, and now it's switched to a split screen. I want to make sure you can see everything that you saw before.
Yeah, I see everything fine. I hear you guys fine.
Okay? Does it look?
This monitor hasn't changed.
Yeah, this has been the
Okay.
same.
Just
Just the one facing you?
double checking. Okay. Okay, that's, as long as we're okay, that's the most important part. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda, we have the bill number 6204 as redlined. If we could have the first reading, please, Mr. City Attorney.
First reading of Bill 6204, an ordinance amending Section 220.010 relating to the nuisance of high grass, brush, and weeds.
So we needed to address a conflict, an ongoing enforcement issue. Is that right, Bola?
Yes.
Okay. Lisa, is there anything you want to bring to our attention regarding this bill, other than
I'll
that?
just come up to
Sure.
answer questions.
Does anybody have
Pretty
any-
straightforward.
Any questions for Lisa that we have regarding Bill 6204? And the redlined version is included in the, which section is that in?
Number 10.
Is that the changing of the height only?
Yes.
Okay.
The height, Lisa.
Any questions for Lisa? Okay.
Right, we would be changing the section 220.010B and amending it from 8 inches of height to 7.
Okay. Further questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading of Bill 6204,
Thanks, Lisa.
an ordinance amending Section 220.010 relating to the nuisance of high grass, brush, and weeds.
Make a motion to perfect Bill number 6204 in ordinance form.
Second.
First and a second, questions regarding that motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Unanimous. Bill number 6204 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4839.
Thank you so much. And Madam Deputy Clerk, if you could be so kind as to move your microphone a little bit more in your, thank you so much. We're up to 6205. Mr. City Attorney, if we could please have the first reading.
First reading of Bill 6205, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, revising the relocation policy of the city and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
And we have Attorney Mello is still here. Thank you, sir. Does anybody happen to have any questions for Attorney Mello regarding this particular bill? This is the law changed in '06, I believe. This is in concert with the the Manchester Road project, something we need to put in place.
Yes, sir.
Questions? And a second reading, please.
Second reading of Bill 6205, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, revising the relocation policy of the city and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
And a motion to perfect.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, and just to be clear, this has to do with the relocation of anyone who would otherwise be displaced in our Manchester Road remediation.
Project, right.
Okay. Other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimon,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka. How about Alderman Plufka?
You're up, David.
Oh, I guess.
Sorry. Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Unanimous. And bill number 6205 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4840.
Thank you so much. We are moving along, and we're up to 6206, the subject of a previous bid opening. This is the lawn care topic. Mr. City Attorney, if we could please have the first reading.
First reading of Bill 6206, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and Natural One Lawn Care LLC, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Bullard, do you have anything? We need to put this in place because we don't have it.
We don't have
Standby.
enough lawn care service providers that
Okay.
could assist the city to remediate code violations.
The city had been placed in a position of trying to get in contact with other standby providers and got no response.
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions regarding bill number 6206? Alderman O'Neill.
Yes, Bola, in the synopsis, there are two different firms listed.
Right, so the first firm is the firm that the city approved back in 2015. And that firm has provided assistance, but in the last couple of weeks, we have needed greater assistance, and they have not been as responsive as we would require. So Parks and Rec Department has had to step up and help us address those problems.
I understand that, but what we are voting on is the natural
Is
one
Natural
lawn
One
care.
Lawn Care, yes.
Thank you.
That's right. Other questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading of Bill Number 6206, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and Natural One Lawn Care LLC, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you so much. Motion to perfect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions regarding that motion? Roll call for bill 6206.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes,
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Bill number 6206 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4841.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda, 6207. This is an IP attorney topic, and our sitting attorney, Helmut, do you have anything to help us out with on this particular topic?
Well, I think I understand what you're wanting to do here. I didn't know if you wanted to go into closed session first to have a conversation with the attorney, but if you're prepared to vote, there's no reason that this particular ordinance couldn't be done in open session.
So we can engage in the contract first, hire the gentleman, and then perhaps...
Then you have an attorney-client relationship.
Okay, and entertain the topic of the closed session perhaps afterwards. Does anybody have any questions for our city administrator or city attorney regarding Bill 6207? And a second reading, please.
First reading of Bill
First and second, please.
6207, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator of the City of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into and execute an engagement letter and confidentiality agreement with Harness, Dickey & Pierce, PLC attorneys and counselors, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Questions?
And this
Second reading,
second
please.
reading of 6207, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator of the City of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into and execute an engagement letter and confidentiality agreement with Harness, Dickey and Pierce PLC attorneys and counselors, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Need a motion?
Motion to perfect?
Make a motion to perfect Bill number 6207 into ordinance form.
Second.
First and second. And roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Bill number 6207 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4842.
Thank you so much. We now have an extra attorney on the payroll of the city of Brentwood. We are also now up to resolutions.
No.
No? Tell me what.
6208.
Oh, 6208. I'm sorry, I have two agendas here. 6208 is the next one on the, this is the contract with Schiller. First reading, please.
First reading of Bill 6208, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and W. Schiller and Company, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? Alderman Lockmiller.
Madam City Administrator, will this allow the audience to be able to follow how we do board docs on the monitors? Will this,
Schiller?
this equipment that we're going to have installed?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. If we have a presentation, we can put it up on the screen, so whoever's watching at home, or if we live stream, can follow.
So it wouldn't necessarily show the agenda as we roll through it?
We have the option of doing that too, and maybe when we get really good,
Not yet.
do that.
Yeah.
Close.
Visually, is a lot more exciting than auto.
Yeah. And Bola, this does not bring us into real-time presentation. This is still a recorded event.
This is, at this point, this is still a recording.
Okay.
We have the option to do that.
Okay.
So we're exploring that, and I just want to thank the board, because when I brought this to your attention late last year, and we went through several months of training, thankfully, we were able to hire Shelley Todd to help us bring it online. So very appreciative of all her work so far.
Excellent. Other questions? Second reading, please, sir.
Second reading of Bill 6208, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and W. Schiller and Company, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Any discussion? And a roll call, please.
Make a motion to
motion to
perfect Bill
perfect,
number
please.
6208 into ordinance form.
There we go.
Second.
And a roll call?
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Unanimous. And bill number 6208 passes, and upon signature of acting president of the Board of Aldermen becomes ordinance number 4843.
Thank you so much. Now we get to the resolutions, I believe. Resolution 1098 has to do with the school district memorandum. And Chief Spees, are you here, sir? Yes, please, if you could come forward. Seems as though with absent the synopsis, we might need some explanation from you, sir.
Yes, sir. We approached the school board to approve funding 75% of the salary of a school resource officer for full-time deployment to the schools of Brentwood. Additionally, we ask that they pay for a vehicle for that officer. So that's the resolution that we're looking for.
Okay. And, let's see, was it a 75%, 25% split, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
School district would pay 75% of the total cost of the officer's salary and benefits.
And would the resource officer begin right away this school year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the chief about this memorandum or the topic? Alderman Lockmiller.
Chief, will the officer also work with the schools on hardening their facilities?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, he's in ongoing training right now this week, and he's going through multiple trainings, and that'll be one of them, is site assessment and hardening of the schools. But it's a multifaceted training event for him.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Plufka?
Well, thank you. Will this officer be, dispatched isn't the right word, but will be placed in the same way that any other officer who's on duty at any one particular period of time, at any 12-hour shift? In other words, are they starting their day at the police station, and then I'm imagining they're dedicated to the school and at that school property?
He'll start at the station and then go to the school each day of the school year. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Dennett.
Thank you. So during the school year, this officer will be at one of the schools or rotating?
Primarily at the high school and the middle school there on High School Drive. He will have some responsibilities in the other schools as well, as far as site assessments and working with their staff if they have problems.
And when school's not in session, like the summer, during holidays, things like that?
Yeah, so the kind of an agreement between myself and the person selected for this was that he would kind of stack his vacation into the summer.
Okay.
So when the schools are off, he'd typically be off mostly.
Okay.
Alderman Lockmiller.
And this officer's a current officer in Brentwood?
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay.
Chief, thank you for bringing this to the forefront. This is a good thing for the city and for the schools.
Yes, sir.
Alderman O'Neill, question?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Will this officer continue the DARE training, or
Yes.
someone else?
Yes.
He will.
It'll all be part of the package, yes.
Thank you, sir. And we are in a position to have a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt Resolution 1098, authorizing an agreement with the Brentwood School District regarding school resource officer services for 18 to 19. Questions regarding that motion to adopt? And a roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
All right. Resolution number 1098 is hereby approved to be adopted by the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you so much. Up to 1099. Bola.
This next item is an agreement with the Metropolitan Park and Recreation District, otherwise known as the Great Rivers Greenway District. The city has partnered with GRG to work together to develop trails within the boundaries of the city of Brentwood. And what this memorandum of understanding does is it crystallizes the several different alignment options for construction of a .60 mile extension of the existing Rogers Parkway. If you all also recall, there hasn't been a formal agreement, but when Mayor Thornton and I and Craig Schluter attended the GRG board meeting this past December, we made a formal request for a $3 million contribution. And there were questions asked. There was no vote taken, but we are of the belief that this pledge of $3 million will ultimately go towards the construction of the Deer Creek Connector.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for our city administrator about Resolution 1099? Alderman Plufka.
Just for clarification, this 0.6 of a mile runs basically from the north side of Manchester Road into Memorial Park?
No, this would be from Mary, actually from Dorothy through the pedestrian tunnel.
Runs south.
Right, through Norm West Park all the way.
Okay. This is the extension that would connect us to GRG?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
one you're referencing is a different project.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Alderman Leahy.
Bola, this has got a $29,500 price tag to it that the city would be paying Greater Green Bay in order to get their encouragement to potentially offer a $3 million supporting grant.
I wouldn't phrase it exactly like that.
Because it may not come. What we're doing is we're trying to convince
We're-
them that this is worthwhile doing. And in order to do so, we have to pay for engineering effort for
We,
them to
exactly.
get on board with us.
To make it easier for them to swallow, absolutely. And it's our project. We want it done now rather than 20 years later, which is when it shows up in their master plan.
Is this $29,500 in the redevelopment of the Manchester Road program? It's not a new figure coming out?
It's not a
of-
new figure, no.
Thank you.
Other questions regarding the motion that we need for adoption of Resolution 1099, or need a move?
Motion to perfect Resolution 1099.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 1099. Any questions regarding that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. We are up to accounts against the city and our warrant list. Alderman Dimick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, what you have in front of you are two warrant lists. The first payments or list made pursuant to the 2018 budget. I've had a chance to look at this and go over these numbers with the city administrator, and I would recommend approval of that warrant list in the amount of $197,643.24.
Second.
Motion and a second regarding the approval of the warrant list, the amount of $197,643.24. And let's take a roll call, please.
Alderman Dimick?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
So we have approval of the warrant list. And ladies and gentlemen, we're up to item 16.
Nope, we're not. We
We're
still
not.
have the other warrant list.
Oh, we
Mr.
got two
Chairman.
warrant lists. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The other warrant list you have in front of you is the one to be paid out of the COP proceeds.
That's right.
And I am making I had questions about one of them that I did not get answers to in time, so I am pulling one of the invoices off, and that is of PGAV in the amount of $12,068.93. So if I've done my math correctly, I am making a motion to approve the warrant list in the amount of $71,756.20.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Madam City Administrator, do you find any challenge or emergent problem with that change?
No, I do not.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any questions regarding that motion? And a roll call, please.
Alderman Dimick?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now we have paid both warrant lists, minus one item. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
The item that's pulled off the list on this month, hopefully will get resolved and will be on the list for next month.
It will be,
So that we can resolve all those issues?
absolutely.
Thank you.
It's time for the report of committees and department heads. Almost now 2 hours into our meeting, ladies and gentlemen. We're trying to make some progress for you. We appreciate your patience. The mayor's report has 4 items here. We'll try to get through them. The first one is the 2018 Board of Aldermen Committee appointments. Once again, the mayor is either there or on his way to the other side of the globe, but he's left behind this proposal for committee appointments for the June 18th meeting. Appears as though the appointments are keeping in line with what we've had previously, and so therefore, we either need a motion to make a change or consider as submitted.
Motion to approve appointments as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second regarding the committee appointments that have been proposed by the mayor of the city of Brentwood for the Public Safety, Public Works, Ways and Means Committee. And let's go ahead and take a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Wiggy.
Next item on the agenda has to do with our Planning and Zoning Commission. And if I remember correctly, there was the topic of reappointment that has been proposed by the mayor. But Bola, there's not any proposal for enlarging the committee or changing otherwise?
No, so there are currently two vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We discussed this with the mayor, Lisa and I, and the mayor is comfortable leaving the total number of members on that committee at 12 at this time, and then reappoint those that are listed on the sheet before you.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the proposed Planning and Zoning Commission slate for 4 years for the members who are on the paper before you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if not, a motion to consider as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to consider the Planning and Zoning Commission appointments or reappointments as they are. And a roll call, please. Alderman Leahy.
Rebecca Jacobs, do we have a location as to which ward she's representing?
She's one.
She is one?
Yes.
I thought she, but I wasn't sure. She's the only one not listed in that one. Thank you.
Other questions regarding the motion on the floor? Guess my only comment, Madam City Administrator, I know the mayor is aware of both mine and of my esteemed co-alderperson, Kathy O'Neill, that we're ideally at some point in the future going to move more towards a balance, more of a balance of the wards and committees such as planning and zoning going forward. We've got the slate here before us and we're ready for a roll call vote.
For 16B, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairperson, you could submit the entire slate as listed rather than going through them individually if you wanted to.
Do you mean as,
Board of Adjustments.
as opposed to the agenda?
Yeah.
Well, we're already on number 2, so let's, yeah, I understand. If we could just have roll call for planning and zoning?
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
No.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Wiggy.
Okay. Appears as though we have an approval for those members. And the next item on the agenda is the Board of Adjustment. You should have a printout regarding, it looks like one reappointment. Is that correct, Bola?
Yes, there is. Just
Okay.
one.
Does anybody have any questions regarding that reappointment proposal by the mayor? And a motion to accept as presented?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Wiggy.
Bola, the city is in the middle potentially of realigning or reimagining the architectural review board system. Is that correct? But this particular proposal would be to continue what we currently have.
That is correct.
Okay? So everybody had a chance to look at the members that are slated for reappointment. There is a vacant position for member 1. There's no recommendation there?
Not at this time.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding the Architecture Review Board proposal? Motion to accept is presented.
So moved.
And a second? And roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Waggy.
Yes.
I don't see it on the agenda, but I believe the next item is the acting president of the Board of Aldermen. So in this case, we would be accepting nominations for the acting president of the Board of Aldermen that would take effect for the next regularly scheduled Board of Aldermen meeting in 2018, which is the July, what? July something meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate yourself, Mr. Kramer, as the acting president.
Second?
We have a first and a second. I guess, Mr. City Attorney, how do I do that? Do we accept any other nominations, or?
I would accept other nominations at this time, if there
Okay.
are any, and then you can do a ballot vote.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, thank you so much. And I guess roll call vote, please. On the nomination, just for the record, I guess. Or to accept by
We accept
acclamation?
it by acclamation.
Okay.
do that?
Can we do that, Mr. City Attorney?
You certainly can.
Okay, so we accept the nomination, and what about a vote? Do we need a vote?
Only one.
She's already got it.
I've already said it, we accept by acclamation,
Second.
right?
There we go, that's fine.
It's only
Just
one
voice
person.
vote, yeah.
I find myself in a unique circumstance, but I thank you so much for your confidence. Next item on the agenda, report from the Public Safety Committee.
We meet next Wednesday, June 27th, 5:30 in this place right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works Committee,
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you heard the buzz regarding our last meeting. But,
Got stung by it.
committee took up whether or not to prohibit beekeeping. And after much discussion and citizen input, we decided to just take no action and have staff monitor the behavior. But more importantly, we also reviewed private contractor bids for trash collection. And surprisingly, we found that in-house, we're supplying a pretty efficient and cost-effective way of collecting our trash and recyclables. But we're going to take up the conversation a little bit more next month and then report back here with the findings. So our next meeting will be held right here Wednesday, July 11th at 4:30. Thank you.
thank you so much. Madam Director of Planning and Development. Couple, couple items?
All right, I'll try to make it as brief as possible also. So my first subject matter is just the annual action that the Board of Aldermen takes to approve the Board of Directors for the 8750 Manchester Road CID. That CID was created back in December 2007 by ordinance number 4081. And every year in preparation of when the CID will have their annual meeting, which is in August, it says, it's spelled out in the CID creation that the Board of Aldermen has to approve their Board of Directors. So first officially, this board needs to approve the Board of Directors, and that will be part of their annual meeting process in August. So I don't know if you have any questions. The members have not changed. So, and they do have qualifying factors to be part of that CID, but the members that they have all meet those qualifying criteria.
And for those who may be wondering, where is 8750 Manchester Road?
8750, right, is about a 4.5 acre parcel. It was the old Sims department store,
Right.
but currently it is 2 parcels now. It's the Arby's outlet and then also the tile shop and Westlake Ace Hardware store.
And you need a motion to approve the,
Just a motion, that would be
Okay.
great.
approving the Board of Directors for this CID.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Questions regarding that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you so much. And the annual report.
In the annual report, there is no action that's really
Okay.
needed by the Board of Aldermen. It's there really for information purposes.
Okay.
And it would cover the reporting period from January 1st to December 31st, 2017.
Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding that item? Thanks a lot, Lisa. Appreciate it.
The second item.
Director, okay.
Okay, the
Buttercup?
second item is a request from the developer who had proposed the 7-story hotel there at 1693 and 1695 South Hanley Road. It was about a year ago to date. This development proposal was brought before you for both a rezoning request and also a conditional use permit, given the height of the hotel was to be 7 stories. So the way our current ordinance is written, a conditional use permit actually becomes null and void if the developer has not obtained a building permit and has actually started construction. So it was coming close to that year deadline. That approval was given June 19th of last year. And so we talked to the developer. The project is alive and well. We're still very excited to have this project in our midst here. So there has been assurances from the developer that the hotel will be built. If you remember, one of the conditions that was placed on the CUP was figuring out an access issue that we had back to the property. And that took really cooperation among the adjoining property owners to work through all that. It definitely should have been a requirement of the conditional use permit. It was made that requirement, but they have been able to make that arrangement. But that did delay the project to some degree. But again, it's, so what they're asking for by code is they can get a 180-day extension to obtain the permit and start
Maximum.
construction. Well, so it's kind of a
Or-
little bit
or at
vague.
a
It
time.
doesn't say, it just says an extension can be asked, so I don't, or how, I'm sorry. It does actually leave it in there that possibly they could ask for more than one extension, the way it's written, but at this time, they really think they can meet getting the project started within the 180-day extension time period.
Alderman Leahy.
The access, is that going to then be accessible through the Home Depot area? Is that what he actually accomplished?
So, no, it will not access through the Home Depot property. The property owner that has the frontage along Hanley Road, which is the Whalen Security Building, there always was an easement that was provided back to the property where the hotel was being built. But if you remember, given the change to the hotel use, there was going to be more requirements in terms of that access becoming more of a through street, and it had to be widened, and just, things that it couldn't be accomplished with just the existing easement as it was written. So, but again, they've worked out the language of that, and it's agreed upon now, so it'll,
Okay. So those two properties in that one roadway going out to Hanley is what they've agreed to?
correct. So
Any
this
other
could be done
questions?
in a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve a 180-day extension on the development for the Equus Hospitality.
We have a motion and a
Second?
second. Motion and a second. Questions regarding that motion? Lisa, is the developer representative here?
Yes,
May I ask a question real quick?
sure. Mr. Chapman, Kevin
Okay.
Chapman?
Hello there, sir.
Hello. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for being here. Has a couple questions. There's nothing in the demand for hotel usage in this area that's changed, has there?
No,
Still very strong.
very strong.
And with this extension, is there an idea of your timeline beginning during this extension, or?
With this extension, we would expect to apply for building permits before the end of the year,
Okay.
before this extension expires.
You don't perceive any further extension requests?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for coming to Brentwood.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have the motion to allow for the CUP extension. Do we need a roll call vote, Mr. City Attorney?
It would be best. I
Yes, please?
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you so much. Director Dan Gumersheimer. Oh, Lisa, is there something else?
So, yeah, the third item, and Dan and I are both kind of covering it to some degree tonight.
Oh, okay.
But it was also the information that was left at your tables tonight, but it's in regard to authorize a memorandum of understanding with Missouri American Water.
Okay.
And this would be for street restoration following water main replacement projects. So more of this probably came to light last fall and this spring when Missouri American Water did a project on Madge Avenue. And the project was delayed. There was just several issues that came up along the way. But the one issue that we still had was in terms of coming up with a proper street restoration standard. As you all know, that street was recently paved by the city, repaved, and spent money on it. And so what we were trying to do with Missouri American Water is still based on what our current standards state in our code, is to come up with some kind of agreement that if they have these major water replacement projects, that they don't have to still completely restore it back to like condition. But if there was something that we could do to still just enhance the appearance of the street and make sure, though, that it is properly restored by meaning that they did filled in properly the soft cut joints and things like that. So what this memorandum has and what Missouri American Water has agreed to is that after these streets get disturbed by a water replacement project, that they will do this application that will actually help preserve the street, and also it will help to a large degree just the appearance of the street as well. So Dan's probably more the expert to talk about that application, and I think again he was going to address it somewhat under his report with the street paving action item. So with that kind of is the little bit of a lead into, I can.
Hey, Lisa, a question for you. When we had the repaving of Brentwood and Brentwood Forest, the city worked with the water company to have them do their work first, and then we did, and NB West did the paving afterwards. On Madge, did the water company make a commitment originally and then change that, or?
So I think what really happened in our case is that about the same time, and the memo kind of spells it out, when the city got real aggressive to do their repaving projects was about the time that Missouri American Water all of a sudden started having a lot more funds to do all of these top priority projects. So not everything was coordinated like that, and possibly could not have been, but there is an example that I know that Dan could provide with one that's coming up, that coordination has been addressed, so that, I mean, at all times, we're going to obviously look to coordinate these projects accordingly to just even prevent this from happening. So.
Okay, thank you. Dan, did you want to add anything? Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yes, Lisa mentioned last year we actually did have decent coordination on Mary and Magdalene. We postponed those with actually Missouri American went ahead before us, and then we just postponed West from doing any work there, and then West came in after the water lines were installed. And then that's why you don't see any seams, because it's brand new from curb to curb. But the one that Lisa alluded to, Melvin, is on their list for 2018, and they were going to do it in the fall, but it's in our 2018 street paving. So we're trying to work through that to either get them in early, or we postpone that street so that we don't have that same issue there.
Okay.
So, and for whatever reason, I did look up Madge. We did in summer of 2016, but it wasn't even on their radar. If I look through the notes, I don't know if it didn't score high enough, or to Lisa's point, they didn't have the funds.
Okay.
So that's where we are.
Questions, board, regarding this topic? Thanks a lot, Dan.
Okay.
So we need an authorization?
Yes.
And a motion for that to enter into the agreement memorandum of understanding with Missouri American Water.
As a,
Alderman Lockmiller, sorry.
as a member and living on Madge, I motion to perfect.
Okay. Second?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. City Attorney, is this a roll call?
I would, because you have an agreement that's
Okay.
going into effect.
All right. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Waggy.
Yes.
Unanimous?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Director Dan. Is there anything else we have on your?
Streets.
Yes,
The
that's why I was
streets?
hanging
Oh,
out.
We took them out of order. Okay, I see. We did the asphalt project. Sure, go ahead.
On this particular one, we talked about three additional streets were considered, and we brought those to the Public Works Committee for discussion, Kempton, Hatton, and Sonora. We're not quite sure when those were done. It appears around 2006, 2007. So we looked at these from a couple different perspectives, either to do sealant on them or to do mill and overlay. Of those three, Hatton cannot be sealed. It's just too far deteriorated, so it really does need to be a mill and overlay if you're going to do anything with it. The other two, we had Donaldson Construction look at, and he said that there's still enough life in them that you could apply that max sealant over the top, and that would kick out your useful life a little bit longer. So we looked at the overall finance and operations. The overall contract with NB West was $644,087.11. In the 2018 adopted budget book, we had $775,527, so we have enough savings. You know, the delta between the two is roughly $131,400. So if we add Hatton to the list, it won't cause us any difficulty with the financials. What we also looked at was possibly doing a sealant on lawn from Brentwood to Urban, but it was decided at the meeting we won't do that. It was already in the 2018 list of streets, so lawn, that one little segment, Urban to Brentwood, will be done as mill and overlay. And what that'll do is actually keep it in line with the paving that was already done at Urban, Spanish, Woodsy, and the other segment of lawn, since they were done, I believe, in 15. So lawn will stay in the list. There's no change there.
Okay.
Hatton will be added, and we're waiting on the change order from NB West for the actual number for Hatton. Swim Club, we're actually going to remove that and push it out to 2019. And that's due to the fact that the swim club is going to be doing renovations to the tennis club building and a bunch of other items over there. And they were just afraid that they might do damage to the newly paved street if they go and do this.
That's at their request. Okay.
As of, yes, per their
Okay.
request. And then last, as we mentioned, Kempton, Sonora, and Madge would have the sealant process. And in which case on Madge, we would have reimbursement through Missouri American.
Dan, is the sealant that you're talking about, is that what they call a slurry seal, or is that something else?
This is proprietary. It's a special stone that's only being quarried in Clever, Missouri, like near Springfield, and then it's a special polymer. So they have a patent on it, and it's maybe 1/4 of an inch thick, and it's put down cold, and it actually cures in under an hour. So they'll just close off block by block of Madge, roll that product out there, let it cure, test it for tackiness, make sure that it's cured, and then move to the next block with their traffic control. So it'll give it a nice uniform black color again, and it actually rejuvenates that top layer with the oils. So,
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Director Dan? If not, we'll need a, go ahead, Alderman Weggie.
Dan, reading your report, so we still have lawn getting the max sealant instead of the full mill and fill. And I know you said that we put that back in, but how are we going to rely on that memory there? Because the memo right now says that lawn will not be milled and filled.
yeah, I think yours is different than mine.
Yeah.
The one that I have.
It's been updated, Alderman Weggie. The one that we got,
The one in board docs, so.
Madam City Administrator,
What's the question?
there's a board
His
docs
version of
version
lawn's
and
different,
the printed version are two different, apparently.
His version of lawn is different than the one I'm reading from. Lawn that I have says no changes needed, that it will be maintained in the street, the fiscal year 2018 asphalt street improvements.
So what you're saying is correct, right?
Okay.
So if we had a motion, it would be to,
Keep in lawn.
the June 18th, 2018 memo would be the accurate one. Alderman Weggie, does yours say June 18th, 2018?
Yes, it does.
Oh, boy. Okay. So we'll have to make sure that we specify that it includes lawn as previously
It
proposed.
will be captured in the minutes.
Okay. So we need a motion for that authorization.
So moved.
Second.
Motion for the authorization to the change order to the contract with NB West Contracting. Does everybody understand that motion? And roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Mr. Dimmitt.
No report.
City Attorney.
No report.
All right, thank you, sir. Madam City Clerk Administrator.
Thank you, Alderman Kramer. In September 2017, the Board of Aldermen, with ordinance number 4798, approved an agreement with Navigate Building Solutions as owner representative for the Manchester Renewal Project. And the reason why I'm bringing this before you this evening was that reason is because we've completed phase 1 of this agreement, which is for general and development services for all 3 projects, and we're entering into phase 2, which is the design phase services for all 3 projects. There's really no need for a motion, but I just wanted the board to know that we're entering phase 2 of the agreement that we signed with them in September of last year. So it's really information purposes only,
Okay.
unless you feel compelled to make a motion to approve it. It's already been done.
Is a signature required?
I have to sign it as city administrator entering into phase 2.
Okay,
That's already approved by the contract.
Yes.
okay. Thank you so much. That was easy. The Manchester Renewal update?
Right, so we have in your packet and in board docs, an update from June 18 and May 18 progress report on the Manchester Renewal. I'll start with May. We have invested an additional $409,797.57 on the purchase of 2814 Breckenridge Industrial Court. Total spent to date is $707,270.37. Direct cost, we have also spent in the month of March $106,248.48 on the preliminary design along with property appraisals, also for the Manchester Road Improvement Project. Total spent to date on direct cost is $565,865.43. And in terms of indirect or sunk cost, in the month of March on legal fees for property acquisition and project management cost, we spent a total of $276,450.39. And for the June report, investment cost, total spent to date, so that number has not changed from May. And for the direct cost, we've spent a little bit more. Total spent to date is $684,548. And indirect or sunk costs, total spent to date is $322,573.69.
Any questions for Bola regarding the Manchester Renewal update?
Hey, Bola's read it. Just on the June report, it says April on it in a couple places, but the numbers look right.
Okay, we'll make those changes.
I do have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Dimmitt?
Thank you. Bola, with these monies that have been spent, with the COPs now being approved, will there be any reimbursement of this?
There were some reimbursements that were to be paid to the city, and they were listed in the issuance documents. So I think it was a total of maybe $75,000 plus. So some of those will be reimbursed to the city because we already paid them.
But, so from this point forward, anything
Everything will
related to
be-
that will come out of the COP?
Exactly, and that's why we've started generating a separate spreadsheet
Right.
that shows what's coming out of the COPS.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you so much, Bola. Just one side note for those who may be listening, watching, or otherwise become a party to the discussion here this evening. You've heard some of the board and even staff mention the topic of board docs. The Brentwood Board of Aldermen are now embarking on another phase of accessing documentation for our meetings and a lot of the preparatory work through an online process, software called Board Docs, and eventually it will mean a less paper-intensive environment for our city, which is good for the trees. And it does take some getting used to, and we're working our way through that. So there's your explanation. We appreciate your patience. Next item on the agenda is going to be the chief's piece. We've got the request for additional police personnel. Thank you for being patient with our agenda this evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Wait, I'll try
to be brief.
Sure.
In your packet, you'll see an organizational chart that I prepared to try and help this be self-explanatory, hopefully. It really shuffles the deck of the police department here in Brentwood and allows me, as your chief, to be able to be confident that we have good oversight of our street officers and also infuse the ability to be able to do the administrative function of the police department well. There's a law enforcement analyst position that I'm asking for that really is what I would describe more as a glue to a lot of these different issues in the department as it's reviewed and given assistance to both the positions in the administrative side and in the patrol side. So if you look at the request that I'm making on the organizational chart, there's really 4 pieces of this. The first one is the fact that the SRO, which is we talked about earlier, is going to the Brentwood School District and will be answering to the detective sergeant position in the police department. Secondly, I'm asking the consideration for moving a corporal position to the rank of sergeant. This position will be vital in the process of doing training for the police department. He will be the training coordinator of the department, and we'll offer our officer safety program initiative that we have underway as well. The 2 bigger pieces of this request are to split it into an administrative position, which would be manned by our current major, Jim McIntyre, and then outside hire of the Bureau of Community Policing in the rank of major. And again, that position for community policing would have oversight of the men and women that are actually on the street in the patrol function. The cost of each of these positions, when you look at the SRO, the 75% savings that the SRO, the school district, will be picking up, basically pays for, it's very close anyway, to the cost of the law enforcement analyst position and going from a corporal to sergeant's position on this new org chart. As I mentioned, Major McIntyre would take the position of administrative command, and the outside hire, we would be responsible for paying between roughly August and the end of the year. And talking to Karen Shaw, Karen has advised that we have around $50,000 left that wasn't budgeted out of Prop P money for this year. So that could be used for to payment of the salary and benefits for this position. And then moving forward, we would look at the Prop P money for years coming for this position as well.
Chief, am I correct, in 2000, Bola, is that 2019, the Prop P estimated about 440,000?
Right.
Does that sound about right?
It's estimated for that this year, but we were being very conservative and only budgeted 391,000 plus.
But for next year, this is from that funding.
So this is the first year, so we'll see how the funds come in, and maybe next year we might be able to budget what the estimate that we got from the county.
Okay, but that Prop P is earmarked just for something like this.
Absolutely.
And also, the one savings that you didn't mention, sir, was we're fortunate to have you as one of our new employees, but you came a little bit later in the year than January 1st, so we saved some money there.
That is true.
Yes, sir.
And we very much are happy that you are here. And I guess start off with questions from the board for the chief about this topic. Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, so are we looking at creating 2 new positions that are not in existence right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so the total cost for those 2 would run around annually about $190,000 approximately,
Yes.
including benefits. And the sergeant training coordinator, that's a new position as well, but that's being filled by someone who's currently a police officer.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the only cost for that is the additional for the promotion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Roughly somewhere around $3,500.
All right. And then we would have that cost going on into the next year.
Yes, sir.
And do you know off the top of your head what the cost is for that?
For the sergeant position?
Yes.
It's around $3,500 a year, depending on the grade of the person that gets promoted to that position.
Okay, all right. Well, then, are you going to need to, so we're taking a corporal to fill that position?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to need to come back to us then and ask for the creation of another position to fill that opening?
This would be the position, what I'm asking to consider this evening is that sergeant's position.
Okay.
So you have the sergeant's position for training coordinator, the law enforcement analyst position, and the major's position for community policing is really the most of that. And again, the SRO savings that we pick up beginning in August will offset just about the entire cost of the law enforcement ambulance for this year, along with the cost of the corporal sergeant rank.
And the basis for doing this is the CPSM report.
It is a big piece of it, yes, sir. I would tell you that this is based upon my observations of the department for the 3 months I've been here. I feel that this gives us the best opportunity for performance in the department and oversight of the department. But certainly the CPSM report is infused in this.
Okay.
It's intertwined in all of these issues, yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Chief, does CALEA come into play here on any of these positions?
Very much so, sir. The administrative position that Jim McIntyre would be responsible for. CALEA is, sometimes the perception is once you pass CALEA, you're done. CALEA never goes away. So they come back and there's challenges for your complaints. There are audits, ongoing audits. So CALEA, I anticipate, I hope that by April of 2019 we will be accredited. But again, it's an ongoing event. Excuse me. So CALEA is under his purview there.
Okay, and the analyst, that's civilian, and would that be someone that would tend to be hanging around our police station where we have no one now?
Yes, as you know, we don't have any administrative staff at this point. This would be a civilian position, and the person would be at what was the old entrance to the station there. That would be the officer.
And then I guess finally, under the old scenario that you've been working with, how are you doing on overtime?
Well, as you know, we're in the parks, and the overtime that is budgeted is $90,000 for this year. I'm working closely with Bola and Karen to ensure that we don't go over that. Part of the officers' time in the parks is also comp time, which is an advantage for that. So we're not paying that, it's just taken out of its comp time. So our overtime budget, I'm watching closely. Right now, my most use of the overtime is walking and riding the bike to the park.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Weggie, did I happen to detect a note of curiosity or question?
Yeah, so Chief, on the civilian position, that also, I'm going through the job description here, but does that include the evidence room organization and things like that?
Yes, sir. Along with that, as well as trying to update the evidence room in terms of technology, that would be part of this position's responsibility as well. There, excuse me, there is new technology coming on the market pretty rapidly for evidence procedures and storage. That would be part of this analyst's job as well.
Okay, thank you.
For clarity's sake, Chief, you've got Sergeant Training Coordinator, Police Major Administrative Command, and Police Major Bureau, June 18, 2018 effective, and then Senior Law Enforcement Analyst, September 2018 effective. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Madam City Administrator, do you have any, I assume you've spoken with the mayor about this topic. He's in favor. Do you have any questions regarding funding for these positions or concerns?
No, I reviewed the memo before you to make sure that it answers all the questions that the board could possibly have about funding, so I'm comfortable with what you have before you tonight.
You are not concerned?
Not concerned at all.
Okay. Does the board have any other questions for the chief while he's here? And so, Madam City Administrator, what would you be looking for here?
So what this is a motion to add positions and to fund those positions.
As proposed?
As proposed.
In the memorandum for June 18th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second regarding the topics brought up by our Chief Spees. Any questions regarding that motion? And a roll call, please.
Alderman Dibbitt?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Unanimous?
Chief, thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much.
And your devotion to our department and city. Thank you so much. Next item, Mr. City Attorney, we have the topic of the intellectual property attorney legal opinion, which I believe we're going to maybe try and cover under the closed session?
I did just speak with Mr. Walsh, and he has some general comments that he can make to you this evening, just about the general area of law that you're looking into.
Okay.
But there are going to be broader issues that you probably will have questions about that should be done in closed session, just so
Okay.
we can maintain the attorney-client privilege.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, if you could, please come forward. Thank you for your patience once again to our agenda.
My pleasure, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to the City of Warmth.
Yes, sir, yes.
So, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Joe Walsh. I'm a partner with the law firm of Harness, Dickey & Pierce.
Okay.
We have 4 offices in the United States. Here in St. Louis, I run the St. Louis office. We have Dallas, Texas, Washington, D.C., and the original office just outside of Detroit, Michigan. The firm is close to 100 years old.
Wow.
And all we do is intellectual property, and we do it all over the world.
Wow.
So patents, trademarks, copyrights, related litigation, and licensing. I was contacted by your city administrator last week and asked if I would be able to represent you. I met with the city administrator. We talked generally about, what the issue is, and from what I understand, the issue is that there was a software product that was developed. The mayor was involved in developing that, and apparently there's a company that he owned, GeoCompile, that participated in the development of this software. The software overlays onto an existing software protocol that works with GPS called US Fleet Software.
Yes, sir.
And together, they create, a better software product. The original product mapped, gave GPS coordinates as to where city vehicles went. When you overlay the additional software that the mayor participated in developing, you wind up with a report that actually shows you, visually where things go. So, I've just been retained. I haven't had a chance to do any fact-finding, but I thought what I would do was share with you tonight general principles that will govern our investigation, and I don't expect the investigation to take very long.
Okay.
It is a little bit fact and data intensive, so I will be working with the city administrator to get the necessary documents. But there are 2 basic substantive areas of intellectual property law that could be implicated here because it involves software.
Okay.
The first is copyright, because software is considered an original work of art under the copyright statute. And the copyright law provides that in the absence of a written agreement that provides for ownership of the ultimate copyrightable work, namely the software, that the developer, the author of the software, is the owner of that software product.
Okay.
So what we have to find out here whether there was some agreement or obligation or whatever. Similarly with patents, a utility patent also protects software as a method of doing business or accomplishing some purpose. And the same is true with respect to the inventorship principles. If you are an employee in a corporation and you are not hired to invent, specifically hired to invent, and you invent something, in the context of your work, normally speaking, you own the invention. It does not belong to the employer. So there are principles of like shop right. If you happen to use some of the employer's resources or manpower to produce the invention, develop the invention, then sometimes the employer would have the right to practice the invention free from any claim of infringement, but still would not own it. So, but again, we have to take a look to see whether any obligations or agreements that would counter these general principles of copyright law and patent law.
Okay.
So, and that's what we'll be undertaking to do, and I estimate we should have the information we need within the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney, would you envision us asking any questions at this juncture or waiting for the closed session?
I would wait for a closed session.
Okay.
And you may even want to have that closed session with Mr. Walsh after he's had a little bit more of a chance to gather the facts that he needs to come to his conclusion.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to do that tonight or if you want to postpone that to another night.
Mr. Walsh, are you, in case they happen to have any questions this evening, are you
I'm
available?
certainly happy to try to answer questions. If I think that the privilege might be violated, I would probably respectfully decline to answer at this point. Unless you really want me to talk, it's up to you. You hold the privilege, so.
We've got a closed session scheduled that has a legal matter already on the agenda. If you are available,
I'm available. I don't have
Perhaps-
much information to discuss with you, though, but I'm happy to participate.
perhaps there's a question that could be asked of you
Certainly.
during that session that could
Certainly.
lead you down a pathway,
Okay.
if you're
All right.
available.
Happy to
Thank you,
stand
sir.
by.
Appreciate
Okay.
it. It'll happen very quickly here
All
in
right.
the next few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item up, Madam Excise Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had an opportunity to review the license applications. There were 26 applicants and 9 different types of licenses applied for. I would recommend that we approve these applications.
Second.
Motion and a second regarding the submission of liquor license renewals for the city of Brentwood. Does anybody have any questions regarding that submission and the motion? And a roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
and Alderman Weggie.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Brandon. And Madam Library Liaison.
Yes, quickly, the library board is looking and actively recruiting new members. Some people have been termed limited and some have moved out of the city. So looking for a diverse board, especially with parents, is on their agenda.
Okay, thank you. Municipal League?
No report.
All right. And now, Alderman Leahy,
Thank you.
announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Ward 3 meeting for the month of June will be Tuesday night, the 26th, 7 PM, here in the council room. All are invited.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes, the Ward 4 meeting for this month will be the same evening, June 26th, at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse at 6 o'clock.
And for those who are quick on your feet, if you're here this evening and you want to come to we've got an annual meeting tomorrow evening at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse for the Brentwood Forest residents. Any other announcements? Any new business? Opportunity to hearing of any matter of public interest upon request of any persons present. Now would be the opportunity to come forward, please. Need your name and address. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward to the podium. Need your name and address or reasonable thereabouts.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Noga Sachs. My address is 12271 Country Manor Lane, St. Louis, Missouri, of course, 63141.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
I wanted to take a chance to meet all of you today. It's a pleasure to meet the members of my community as I am applying for the job of being your representative in U.S. Congress. As your U.S. representative, challenging Ann Wagner on the representative ticket. It's been a pleasure for me to actually engage in the community, unlike the availability of our current representative, who doesn't have town halls. I've had the great pleasure of meeting Colonel Spies, and I align greatly with his objectives and his proposal for how to mitigate some of the public safety concerns that we're seeing in schools as well as workplaces. I commend Colonel Spies for his great work, and I commend all of you here today for recognizing that and approving that proposal. I want to invite you to be a part of the town hall that I'll be having on June 25th. And if you're interested in being a part of a parade, I'll be in the 4th of July parade in Webster Groves. We have a couple of points of availability. My platform primarily stands for exactly what Colonel Spies is proposing, practical solutions. We talk back and forth quite a lot, pro-life, pro-choice, Second Amendment, not Second Amendment, the regulations. I believe strongly in practical solutions so we can bring things to resolution for the best interest of our population. And I think we can all agree we're very interested in the safety of our children and general population. So would love to see you at what is it called? Town Hall.
Town Hall.
Love to see you at the Town Hall on June 25th. That'll be at the Middendorf Library at 7 p.m. Thanks very much for hearing me. Any questions?
Norma, where's for those unfamiliar with the Middendorf Library?
Oh, my apologies. That's
It's okay.
in St. Charles.
Okay.
I've been trying to cover all of District 2 There will be a second, if it's a little closer for you, and I think it is, there will be, my fourth town hall will be at the Frontenac Library on July 3rd, a little earlier to accommodate the 4th of July holiday at 3:30 p.m.
And you mentioned you're doing something July 4th as well, did you say?
I'll be in a parade.
Oh, the parade, okay.
And there's
sorry.
some space in my little block if you want to be a part of it. I'd love to have you shaking some signs with us.
Okay. Thank you for being here this
Good luck to
evening.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
good luck to you, thank you.
A pleasure.
Would anybody else like to come forward? Now is the opportunity. Public comment. Going once, going twice. Thank you so much. And do we have an aldermanic response by chance to the citizen input? All righty. And now I believe we need a motion to go into.
I make a motion that we proceed into closed session pursuant to Missouri statutes, Chapter 610, 021.1 and 021.2, and adjourn from that executive session.
Motion?
Second.
And a second. We have a motion and a second. Questions regarding that motion? And before we hit the button here, just to let you know, we're going to do that about 10 minutes after the gavel hits.
Before
Do we need a,
Before you vote, I'm sorry, I
Yep.
think we have a procedural matter. Your alderman that is on the video has to get off of that video and will be able to talk on the telephone. So we're going to have him call in, announce his phone number, identify him, and he'll participate by phone in the closed session.
Alderman Weggie, do you think you can perform that duty inside of 10 minutes?
I'll give it the old Harvard.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, this is a roll call vote?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Look like a true Princeton grad.
Alderman Demmett.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yep.
We'll have a 10-minute recess. Thank you.